In the small village of Nyanga, nestled between rolling hills and lush forests, lived a young mother named Adia. She was married to Kofi, a humble farmer whose days were filled with the toil of the land. They had recently welcomed their first child, a beautiful baby boy named Jaro. Life in Nyanga was simple, and though money was scarce, the love within their small family was abundant. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the village was bathed in a warm, golden glow, Adia received a visit from an old friend, Zuri. They had grown up together, but Zuri had left Nyanga many years ago in search of a better life. She had returned, draped in fine clothes and adorned with gold jewelry, a stark contrast to the modest attire of the villagers. Adia, my dear friend, Zuri began, her voice smooth and persuasive. It has been too long. I have missed you. Look at how far I have come. You could have this too. Adia listened, a flicker of longing in her eyes. The weight of poverty had pressed heavily upon her shoulders, and the thought of providing a better life for Jaro was a powerful lure. Zuri's words were like honey, sweet and enticing. I know of a way, Zuri continued, leaning in closer. A way to bring wealth beyond your wildest dreams, but it requires a great sacrifice. Are you willing to do whatever it takes for your family? Adia hesitated, her mind racing. She thought of Kofi, working tirelessly in the fields, and of Jaro, innocent and pure. The idea of riches was tempting, but the price was steep. What do you mean, Zuri? What sacrifice? Zuri's eyes gleamed with a dark intensity. A ritual, Adia, a powerful ritual that requires the essence of the one you love most. Your baby, Jaro. Think of the life you could give him. Free from hardship, he would become a part of something greater. Adia's heart pounded in her chest, a mix of fear and temptation swirling within her. Desperation and greed gnawed at her conscience. She loved Jaro more than anything, but the thought of a future without struggle was intoxicating. She found herself nodding almost against her will. Tell me what to do. The days that followed were a blur of whispered conversations and secretive preparations. Zuri guided Adia through the steps of the ritual, assuring her that it would be quick and painless for Jaro. Adia's guilt gnawed at her, but she pushed it aside, focusing on the promised wealth that would change their lives forever. One night, under the cover of darkness, Adia and Zuri made their way to a secluded clearing in the forest. The air was thick with tension and the sound of nocturnal creatures. Zuri began to chant, her voice rising and falling in an ancient, rhythmic cadence. Adia clutched Jaro to her chest, tears streaming down her face. As the ritual reached its climax, a strange sensation washed over Adia. She felt a tug deep within her soul, as if something was being pulled away. She looked down at Jaro, his tiny body still and peaceful. For a moment, she thought she had made a terrible mistake, but then the ground beneath them trembled, and a blinding light erupted from the circle they had drawn. Adia shielded her eyes, her heart pounding. When the light faded, she saw a figure standing before her, ethereal and otherworldly. "Who dares to summon me?" the figure boomed, its voice echoing through the forest. Zuri stepped forward, her confidence unwavering. "We seek your blessing, Great Spirit. We offer this child in exchange for wealth and prosperity." The figure's eyes, glowing with an inner fire, turned to Adia. "And you, mother? Do you willingly give your child for this boon?" Adia's resolve wavered. The enormity of what she was about to do crashed over her like a tidal wave. She clutched Jaro tighter, her love for him bustling with her desire for a better life. I The spirit's gaze bored into her, waiting for her answer. Adia's mind raced, memories of Kofi's kindness and Jaro's innocent smile flooding her thoughts. She was at a crossroads, with no clear path forward. Suddenly, a rustling in the bushes broke the tension. Kofi emerged from the shadows, his face a mask of shock and betrayal. Adia, what have you done? Adia's heart sank, her secret laid bare. She had to make a choice, and the weight of it pressed heavily on her. The spirit loomed before her, its presence overwhelming. As she stood on the precipice of a decision that would change everything, Kofi's sudden appearance jolted Adia from her trance. His eyes, usually so full of love, now burned with disbelief and hurt. The spirit's presence loomed larger, its impatience palpable. Adia stepped back. Kofi commanded, his voice steady but strained. This is not our way. We do not sacrifice what we love for greed. Adia's heart ached, torn between her husband's words and the promise of a better life. The spirit's gaze shifted to Kofi, and for a moment, the air grew thick with tension. You are the father, the spirit intoned, its voice deep and resonant. Do you stand against this offering? Kofi stood firm, his hands clenched into fists. I do. We will find another way. I will not allow my son to be a pawn in this dark game. Zuri, sensing the ritual slipping from her grasp, stepped forward, her voice urgent. Kofi, you don't understand. This is your chance to escape poverty. Think of Jaro's future. But Kofi shook his head. No future built on blood is worth living. Adia, please listen to me. Adia looked down at Jaro, who cooed softly in her arms. Her mind swirled with conflicting emotions. She had been seduced by the promise of wealth, but now, faced with the reality of her actions, she saw the true cost. She stepped back, her grip on Jaro tightening protectively. The spirit's eyes narrowed, its patience wearing thin. The decision must be made. Will you proceed or withdraw? Kofi moved to Adia's side, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. We withdraw, he declared firmly. Our family will stay whole. The spirit's form shimmered, its fiery gaze now fixed solely on Zuri. You have failed, it hissed. There is always a price for summoning me. Zuri's confident facade crumbled. She fell to her knees pleading, no, please, give me another chance. I can find another way. But the spirit's fury was unyielding. You have tampered with forces beyond your control. Now you must pay. With a final thunderous roar, the spirit vanished, leaving the clearing in an eerie silence. Adia, Kofi, and Jaro stood together, the weight of what had just transpired settling over them. Zuri remained on the ground, sobbing uncontrollably. Kofi helped Adia to her feet, his eyes filled with a mix of relief and sadness. Let's go home, he said softly. As they made their way back to the village, Adia's mind raced with questions. What would become of Zuri? How would they rebuild their lives after this harrowing ordeal? And most pressing of all, had they truly escaped the spirit's wrath, or would there be further consequences? Their return to Nyanga was met with a mix of curiosity and concern from the villagers. Kofi and Adia decided to keep the events of that night a secret, a burden they would carry together. They focused on their future, determined to find a way to provide for Jaro without resorting to dark and desperate measures. Days turned into weeks, and life slowly began to return to normal. However, Adia couldn't shake a feeling that they were being watched, that the spirit's presence still lingered. She found herself waking in the middle of the night, haunted by nightmares of what could have been. One evening, as the sun set over the village, Adia noticed a strange figure at the edge of the forest. It was Zuri, her once radiant appearance now haggard and worn. She watched as Zuri approached their home, her steps slow and deliberate. "Adia," Zuri called out, her voice a mere whisper of its former self. "I need to speak with you." Adia's heart raced. She knew this conversation would not be easy, but she also knew she couldn't avoid it. She stepped outside, leaving Kofi and Jaro inside, and faced her old friend. "What do you want, Zuri?" Adia asked, her voice steady but wary. Zuri's eyes were filled with sorrow and regret. "I came to apologize. I was wrong, and I put you and your family in danger. The spirit, it demands retribution. I fear it won't stop until it gets what it wants." Adia felt a chill run down her spine. "What does it want, Zuri?" Zuri shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "I don't know, but we need to find a way to protect Jaro and your family. There is an elder deep in the forest who may have the knowledge to help us. Will you come with me?" Adia's mind raced. Trusting Zuri again was a risk, but if there was a chance to protect her family from the spirit's wrath, she had to take it. She nodded slowly. "I'll come, but if you betray us again, I won't hesitate to stop you." Zuri nodded, her expression one of genuine remorse. "I understand. Let's leave at dawn." As Adia prepared for the journey ahead, she couldn't help but feel a mix of dread and determination. The path to redemption and safety was fraught with danger, but she was willing to face it for the sake of her family. The spirit's shadow loomed over them, but with courage and resolve, they would find a way to break free from its grasp. Was Zuri's intentions this time around real? Find out in the next episode.